Going over to the political part of the podcast, you have Ford could face $1 billion in federal fines due to new fuel rules. Oh, how ironic. I say that ironic because these companies, Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, well, not Stellantis, or Stellantis if you feel so inclined because they're European based, and that might be how they're pronounced, perhaps. Certainly sounds more amusing. Now, they are all having to work with the United Auto Workers. And United Auto Workers, giving their historicals, they overwhelmingly support Democrats, and they actually pay for their campaigns. So they're voting for all the things they're getting, including killing the internal combustion engine, which is the most profitable product. But the proliferation of EVs, which again will mean less rudimentary, simple labor, it'll be basically a tech company, so that's going to decrease some of their jobs. And they get 40-year hyperinflation, and guess what? That's what the government also caused. That was both sides of the political aisle throughout the years, but nevertheless, it's gotten worse. Some might say, many would argue, lately. Now, this is thanks to the Detroit News, which serving Michigan since 1873. I'm still shocked that they're still in business, to be honest. Let's just say my family got out there. They got out as soon as possible. Fascinatingly enough, from a cultural perspective, they used to be the richest city on the planet. Yeah, how times have changed and how cultures have changed as well. Now, it looks like Ford could specifically face $1 billion fines from 2027 and 2037 under the restricted proposed average fuel economy rules that target SUV and truck manufacturers. This according to a filing by the Dearborn-based manufacturer that has made by the federal government. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has proposed a fleet-wide average mandate known as the corporate average fuel economy standard of about 58 miles per gallon, or if you're foreign, 93 kilometers per gallon by 2032. The most stringent rules are part of Biden administration effort to cut emissions and accelerate the country's transition to EV vehicles. So when people say I'm being too bombastic, or they say I'm not being forthcoming when I say the government's banning EV or banning internal combustion engines, they are. It's a de facto ban. It's this very thing. Because again, a company has to hit certain metrics. If they don't, then they face massive fines. They can't, depending on what the fines are, they may or may not be able to exist. So that's why you're seeing so many EVs. It's not consumer demand. That's not the overwhelming real reason these companies are pushed in that direction. It's government mandates, which ironically enough, depending on where you charge an EV, actually is worse for the environment, since depending on where you live on the grid, they get their fuel or they get their energy from coal plants. So a little fun piece of irony. Also, just Google image or Brave image, a lithium mine. There's a lot of acids involved to make that happen, needless to say. Now, it looks like, most hilariously, of course, it's going to hurt the American automotive companies, because again, the American automotive companies traditionally have been great at making the V8, the internal combustion engine. It used to be the gold standard. And then the Japanese came in with fuel economical vehicles, and that's kind of the trends you've been seeing throughout the past, darn near half a century. Now, it looks like, quote, this is again according to, what is this here? This is according to Ford directly. They say, quote, Ford has never paid civil penalties under the CAF program, and yet, by National Highway Traffic Association's own analysis, Ford would likely have to pay $1 billion in civil penalties if the NHTSA's proposal was finalized. This is alarming in and of itself and threatens the substantial economic hardship for Ford, unquote. Yes, very true and hilariously ironic. They voted for it. Well, their employees did. And it's just one of those instances where, again, they're losing money on EVs. Ford, especially right now, the only reason they exist is because of Ford Blue. Ford Blue is a division of the company that makes the good old Ford Mustang, not the E-Mach, the Ford Mustang with the internal combustion engine, the V8 and the stick shift that everyone loves. The Ford F-150, the original OG, as the youth might call it. The F-250, the 350, it's the best-selling truck in history. It's all internal combustion engines. That is a profit right now that Ford is making. The other car of the business, EV, they're bleeding money still. And again, they'll make a profit eventually, but it's going to take quite some time. It's going to take longer than anticipated as well, especially because their labor costs are going to go out of control after this whole strike with the UAW. No matter how they land, unless they were just hire band-aids, pejoratively known as scabs, it's going to be an issue where labor's going to go up when, again, the competition like Tesla, their labor is a lot cheaper. Partially because they're incentivized with stock to work like hell. Some would say the antithesis of a union in concept. Now, it looks like as if Ford rivals, General Motors and Stellantis, would also stand to face huge fines under Biden's administration's proposal. According to the Washington Post trade group, the American Automotive Policy Council, under the administration's current proposal, GM penalties would amount $6.5 billion over a 5-year period, and Stellantis would pay $3 billion. And again, that's what these companies do best. Their core competency, and I would argue what a lot of consumers demand from them, is internal combustion engines. The good old V8. Partially because a electric truck doesn't really work if you need it to tow, which is why many people would buy a truck to begin with. Now, it looks like the current rules call for automakers to achieve an average of 49 miles per gallon by 2026, which again is ridiculous in and of itself, whatever happened to the good old free market. Also, keep in mind, one of the biggest detriments to this is not only do you need a fleet average, which we actually got that fuel economy in the 80s. However, that was when cars were much, much lighter, because nowadays they need to have 29 million airbags and you need to be able to walk away basically from any accident. Which, don't get me wrong, that's good, but as a brilliant man once said by the name of Tom Sewell, there's no solutions, only trade-offs. So in order to get the most safest vehicles on the planet, you have to have them weigh a lot because of all the safety features, including the myriad of airbags and sensors. And again, the heavier the vehicle, the good old average in terms of engineering, every 100 pounds you can remove from weight of the vehicle is a 1% increase in fuel economy. The inverse is the same. If you add 100 pounds, you're going to lose about 1% in fuel economy. Now, it'll be interesting to see. They noted that the industry-wide average for 2020 model year was 25.4 miles per gallon, according to the federal government's most recent data. And they say that Ford and other manufacturers typically comply with the federal fuel economy rules by purchasing credits from EV makers such as Tesla. Now, those credits are going to get used up eventually, I would suspect, and they also are going to cost more and more. So it'll be interesting to see, and it also is a great example of how politics, culture, and business are all interconnected. Because again, if the government was so small that they had no mandates like back in the day, I mean, it wouldn't matter what the fuel economy was. It would be the consumer demand that would actually drive the innovation. In this case, these companies have their backs up against a wall, and if they don't do what the government says, they're going to be faced with fines. So depending how big the fines are, it could put them out of business. So it'd be interesting to see. Let me know in the comments, would you ever buy an EV from the UAW manufactured fleet at General Motors, Ford, or Stellantis? Or do you think they're going to put themselves out of existence? Again, GM has gone bankrupt, I believe, 3 times by now since Billy Durant founded the company all the years back when he actually combined Buick as well as Oldsmobile to found the company. It'd be interesting to see. Let me know in the comments. It'd be fast to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, again, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of October. So if you could click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, any feedback, even if it's harsh or critical, it's greatly appreciated. Throw it in the comments. That way I know how I can improve the show, make it better and better. Lastly, if you like the video, it also helps me know if the video is doing better or not. Or you can always put a downvote, and then I'll know maybe I need to work on the video. Although if you don't comment, I'm not going to know how to actually improve it. So it'll be interesting to see what the feedback is from this video. I appreciate it nevertheless. Also, and lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.